Hey guys, I'm Joel.
And I'm Layla, and welcome to the Undecided Podcast.
Today we are going to be talking about the moon landing.
Small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
So, Joel, what do you think about the moon landing?
I personally feel like the moon landing was absolutely real.
Did you know that 5 to 10% of the entire population on Earth believes that the moon landing was staged?
I did not know that. Personally, I feel like that's a low number. I mean, you're talking about the world's
The
population?
whole world, out
That's a
of
big
like
number.
7 to 8 billion people.
Big number of people.
Let's do that math. Let's see how many people believe the moon landing and all other Apollo landings.
Is 10% of
Faked.
7,700,000,000?
Let's find out.
There's no way I'm not good at math, right? It's not. No way.
I think it's 700,000. Wait, no.
No. I think it's 700 million.
I mistyped it. That
Either
was what
way,
happened.
I mean, there's no need. We know that's a lot of people.
That is a lot of people.
I mean, I had no idea. Maybe you know, but I guess what confuses me a lot is why do people want it to be fake?
Well, I don't know if people want it to be fake. More so, I think they like just believing in conspiracy theories.
Mm.
I mean, our friend Hannah was just talking about this in class the other day, and she said, if we actually landed on the moon, why haven't we done it since? And that's, I think, what most people argue. They're like, if it was real, why haven't we done it again since our technology is so much better now than it was in 1969?
Well, I can understand that point, but as you know, failed there were failed missions to the moon.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, I don't think that, landing on the moon, I don't think it was such a big moment for our country. I mean, there was a race to the moon.
That's, I think, another reason why people think it was faked, because there was so much on the line.
Yes, but I guess going back to your point is, our landing on the moon didn't provide anything other than just that we won the race. So maybe they're thinking, well, we've already done it. Why do we need to go back?
That's fair.
I mean, why would you put people at risk? Now, I'm sure there's many people who would sign up for that and who would volunteer to go to the moon. But I mean, I'm sure it's expensive.
Yeah, well, NASA has actually responded to most of the claims that the moon landing was fake.
Interesting.
Yeah, and they've said that the reason why they haven't gone back is that it has been too political and too expensive, and we can't get everyone to agree on a budget for a moon landing.
Interesting. I mean, that kind of makes sense.
It does, because like you said, like I feel like there's not really a need, and so less people would be willing to spend that money on the moon landing.
Absolutely. I mean, do we have any evidence from the moon?
Yes, actually, they brought back moon rocks, and
Ooh.
yeah, moon rocks. And the spacesuits that are covered in the dust are in a museum, or they're like on display somewhere.
Cool.
Yeah, if you count that as stuff from the moon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, 1969 is when we landed on the
Yeah,
moon?
1969.
Interesting. I think one of the biggest things that I've heard is that Steven Spielberg directed the moon landing.
Steven Spielberg. I heard that somebody directed it, but I don't know.
I thought it was
who
Steven Spielberg.
Yes, people believe that
Because I think that was right around his time.
I can't find the guy.
I thought that was the whole thing was like Steven Spielberg
people
was
were
this-
like, because a movie had just come out.
Jaws.
No,
It's not Jaws?
no, a movie about the moon.
Oh.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure Jaws had just come out.
Was
Also.
I think Steven Spielberg directed Jaws.
But a movie had just come out about space, and people thought that that was so realistic that the guy who directed that movie probably directed the moon landing. But in reality, the movie was so realistic because the director asked for help from astronomers
Cool.
for like gravity and stuff like that and
Interesting.
the special effects. Oh, it is Stanley Kubrick
Oh, so not Steven Spielberg.
because it was a futuristic movie called 2001.
Very cool.
About the year 2001.
That's
Which is cool.
insane.
Yeah.
Okay, so no to Steven Spielberg. That was misinformation by myself. Okay.
But some of the reasons why people think the moon landing is fake are really cool.
Well, what's the one with the flag?
Oh, okay. So, in pictures where they are planting the flag on the moon, it is very clearly rippling, like as if there's wind on the moon.
Like moving?
It looks like it. I mean, like, I don't know if there's video footage of it, but the picture, it really looks like it's rippling. I think I have a picture of the flag. Yes, I do.
What?
I'm showing Joel this picture
Oh, wait, I can see it.
right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now-
So as you can see, it's very clearly rippling, and people are like, "That's not possible because there's no wind on the moon. So this must be from a movie set." But
Okay.
the reason why it looks like it's rippling is because there is a rod in the top of the flag to make it extend outward.
I think I can see the rod.
Yes. And the reason why it's like wrinkled as if it's rippling is because it had been folded up and they hadn't like straightened it out.
Interesting.
So those are just like wrinkles, like creases in the flag from transportation. And I think there is video footage and it looks like it's rippling when I think it's Buzz Aldrin is planting the flag into the moon.
I have to admit, the video footage that I've seen of the moon landing, quite goofy looking.
Really? Well, the reason why the flag looks like it's rippling in the video is because he's like twisting it like you would a beach umbrella to put it in the sand.
Oh, and so it's moving a little bit as there's not wind.
Because he's moving it, yeah.
Okay. I don't know. I just feel like, I think you made a good point saying maybe the moon race was the reason that we faked it. Was,
And because JFK had made a public statement declaring that as a goal at that time to
Yes.
visit the moon either by the end of his term or the end of the year. And so I think there was a lot at stake for that too, for his presidency.
But now I guess my thing is that don't you think that if we faked it for that whole purpose of challenge and for that competitive edge so that we can say that we won, don't you think other countries would have found that out? They would have really investigated that? Honestly, rounding back real quick, everyone always says, well, if we've done it once, why don't we do it again? Why has no other country been to the moon?
I was just about to ask that.
I have no idea.
Right? Like,
Why has no other place been to the moon? Just because we've done it?
here's the thing. You and I know about the Artemis Accords.
Of course.
'cause we had to do a debate on it.
Oh, yes.
And for those of you who don't know what the Artemis Accords is, it is a multilateral space agreement for moon, almost like colonization. People want to go to the moon and take resources and do moon mining and set up camps and little locales on the moon. But there's a lot of discourse about it because it sort of violates pre-existing treaties. And I feel like, why do we have those agreements in place if nobody's ever been to the moon?
Exactly. If we can set up a plan on what to do when we get to the moon, and it doesn't seem like we're in a rush to get to the moon. Do you know what I mean?
Exactly. Like, I feel like, why are we jumping ahead to form these agreements on, like, what are we going to do with the moon when nobody has really even been, except
Air
for...
quotes, no one's been.
Except for us, allegedly.
And I guess that's my thing too, is that why has no one else been?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, I feel like if
I think what
see-
people don't understand is that I think the moon landing in 1969, I think that was not a common thing. I think that was almost like a stroke of luck. I don't think that it was a for sure thing.
No, it was definitely a stroke of luck because there were so many factors in place which people used to argue against it being real. And NASA's just literally kind of like, oh, we got lucky. Like, there's this, I don't know what it is. I think it's like part of our atmosphere that is really hot or something.
Okay.
I'm going to try to find it somewhere. But people are like, oh, there's no way we could have even left our atmosphere at this time because it would have, like, harmed the astronauts. And then NASA was like, oh, well, we were going so quickly that it just didn't. That was the answer. Let me try to find that.
But that's what I mean, though, is that I feel like people are like, oh, well, we did it in 1969. Why not just go back if we've already done it? And I'm like, people don't understand the dangers that go into it.
Yeah, okay, I found it. So people argue that without the protection of the atmosphere, the astronauts would not have survived passing through the Van Allen radiation belt. And they did that twice, going and coming back,
Yeah.
you know, even if they were inside their sealed spacesuits. The material used to construct the capsules was not thick enough to block the deadly radiation, which all of that is true. But then NASA explains that the spacecraft moved so rapidly through the belt that the harmful effects of radiation were significantly reduced. And yeah, that's basically their explanation.
I mean, that makes sense, and that's what I've always thought was like those guys. While it was very well coordinated and well planned, I just think that it was a little bit lucky, and so
It was lucky because even the astronauts who went, a lot of them developed health issues later on in life. Yeah.
I mean, imagine. I mean, we've seen failed takeoffs before. I mean,
Oh, I have.
yeah, and what I'm saying though is that I think in that time, I think people were they were not as sensitive to those kind of things. If we had a failed takeoff today,
Oh, yeah.
I feel like it would be a much bigger controversy. I think that there would be much more judgment. I mean, think about the activists everywhere you go.
Yeah.
People would protest against it. They would and so that's what I mean. And so I think that people don't understand the significance of one making it to the moon, and that it wasn't that easy. It wasn't like, oh, what's the whole phone thing I always hear? People are like, oh, well, the same like computer that they used to whatever is the same as our phone. I would need to look it up, but it was like something comparing a smartphone to their like navigation system or something like that. It was silly. And I was like, no. And I just think over the years too, people have come up with extreme hyperbole.
Wow. So the Adobe blog, and I don't know how credible that is, but I literally just Googled smartphone versus Apollo 11. It says, it's one of those facts you read online that seems unbelievable, but in fact, a modern smartphone is exponentially more powerful than the guidance computer NASA used for the famous Apollo 11 mission. Even faster, technology advances at warp speed and computing power grows exponentially. So that seems to be true. The smartphone is more powerful than the Apollo 11 computer.
And I guess that's what people are. And people are always like, oh, well, why don't we just go back then? And I'm like,
But that makes so much sense though
it's
when you
the
think about it.
navigation system.
Because it was one of the first computers. It's 1969.
Yeah.
Like that makes sense, I feel like.
It does, but I mean,
Even still,
I don't like when people use that as like a point to, oh, well, now we have even better technology to go there. I'm like, that was just the navigation system. The hardest part of getting there is like the takeoff. And I mean, like, there's a lot that goes in, not just, okay, well, we need to know where the moon is.
Like we do.
We do know where the moon is.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, people don't understand, like, and do you know how long the trip is to the moon?
Let me look it up.
I think it's quite hefty. I don't think it's a little weekend.
Well, it says it takes about 3 days. So not a little weekend, but a long weekend.
Little holiday weekend.
Like Memorial Day weekend.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, it says it takes about 3 days for a spacecraft to reach the moon. During that time, a spacecraft travels at least 240,000 miles, which is the distance between the Earth and the moon.
3 days.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Wow. I mean, honestly, now I'm kind of pulling for the Artemis Accords. I mean, if it's 3 days, I mean, like you said, that's a long weekend.
That's a long weekend. We can take like trips.
Yeah.
Weekend trips.
Holiday weekend. Take
Holiday
Thursday
weekend.
off. Go up to the moon for a little bit. Dig some rocks. Come back. Go to work on Tuesday. Oh my gosh. Wow. I thought it was much longer.
Yeah. It makes sense though, since it's like in our orbit, I feel like.
Absolutely. I agree. I don't know. I think that it's too risky of a thing to try to fake. That is my reasoning for believing it's real, is because I think it would just be too. I think it would be too risky because if it did come out, I mean, like I said, other countries didn't investigate this. I mean, this was a real. This was a massive, massive point in history, and I mean, if other countries
Maybe other countries did investigate it because
and they were like, it's real.
but it's 5 to 10% of the global population that doesn't believe the moon landing is
Yeah,
real.
but that's just all hearsay.
But maybe some of that is other countries being like, "Oh, America didn't do that."
Haters.
Haters.
And I mean, now you have to think about that though.
Yeah.
Here's what I think would happened if I were to give you a timeline.
Okay.
Is I think that we landed on the moon. I think places like Russia, China, I think they were jealous. What I think what happened is that they started saying like they didn't actually do it. We think it's fake. There's no way because hey, they're haters. If they couldn't do it, they don't think that we can. And what I think is I think that it was almost like a game of telephone. And I think that that same mindset started coming over to our country. And now people inside our country believe that we also didn't land on the moon.
I'm not sure who said it first, but I know who was the most prominent speaker on it. It was a guy named Bill Casing, and he
Okay.
was a technical writer for a space company, Rocketdyne, which
Cool.
built rocket engines for NASA's Apollo program. And he published a book called We Never Went to the Moon, America's $30 billion Swindle. And he is basically the one who started all of the rumors. Like, if you haven't heard them, people say the moon landing was fake because there are no stars in the pictures that people have taken on the moon.
I noticed that when I looked at the photo. It looked
Yeah.
very dark behind them.
Yes. And that's because NASA says that that's because of the exposure of the camera,
Okay.
because the camera was set for daylight exposure and couldn't detect stars.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the whole explanation for it. It was just the camera setting that made the stars not appear. And Casing also talked about how there weren't like craters on the moon from the spacecraft. And NASA said blasting a crater in rocket like that is not possible at all.
Yeah, I think that's kind of silly.
Which makes sense, I think. Like, if they landed if they didn't crash into it, I
Of
feel
course,
like why would
yeah.
they make a crater,
Yeah.
Yeah. And
One thing
then
that catches my eye about this, I will say, is the lighting.
the lighting.
Is the lighting explained?
People they talk about the lighting, but Casing, he said the Van Allen radiation belt, he said that, and
So he was okay with the lighting.
hold on. I need to check.
Okay, okay, because that's
He
so.
said a lot of things. He said, first of all, there's no camera in movie like equipment that could have withstood like the sunlit temperature of the moon, which would have reached like hundreds of degrees Fahrenheit. The film would have melted or been fogged or something. But NASA just said they had really good cameras, and that's their explanation for that.
Is this Aldrin or Armstrong in the photo? Do you know? Is that Buzz?
I do know. Hold on.
Because
Oh, okay. I have something about the lighting.
Okay.
I found it. So he says that there's a lot of photos where the angles and shadows are inconsistent or they contradict each other, which is true. The shadows don't really make any sense in the pictures. And he thinks that that's because light was coming from multiple directions at the same time from stage lighting. And NASA just said that the shadows are complicated by reflected light off the lunar module, the spacesuits, and the mirrored helmets, and the equipment, and the surface, and everything's just basically reflecting off of each other.
oh wait, so do you think they had lights on the thing on the aircraft?
On the aircraft? Why would they need them?
I think the moon's pretty dark.
Oh, yeah. Duh.
I mean, it got to be, right?
Yeah.
It's not like bright.
No, definitely. They definitely had lights.
They had to have lights on, so that kind of makes sense. You know what I really enjoy? I really enjoyed that like NASA responded to all of this man's books. They were like, okay, dude, guess what?
Yeah.
You got to answer for it. Say everything you want, man. But guess what? We're going to have an answer. For my people listening, if you haven't seen this photo, this is either Buzz Aldrin or
I'll
Armstrong.
find that. Hold on.
And basically, he's standing on what looks like to be a very dusty moon surface. There's an American flag planted, and there's the light that is shining directly on him and the flag. That is one issue that I have. I mean, maybe they were, but the photo does look a little bit cinematic.
Yeah, all of them really do. And I think maybe he was just at the right angle with like the spaceship's lights.
Yes. No, I
Maybe.
agree. I mean, obviously, I think if you land on the moon, you're gonna take a quality photo.
True, yeah.
You're not gonna be like, oh,
You're
this
like,
is.
where should I plant this flag? Like, oh,
You're-
where the lighting's best.
You're not gonna be like, oh, this is good. It's over with.
Yeah. Some people also notice that there's a picture of Armstrong, okay? Neil
Mhm.
Armstrong. Or no, it's a picture of Buzz Aldrin, but Neil is taking the picture and his reflection is visible in his visor, like Buzz's shiny visor. But he's not holding a camera. So, like, who's taking the picture? That's kind of the argument.
Wait,
And look at the picture.
okay.
I have the picture in here.
can I see it?
Yeah. Do you have the document?
Oh, I'm looking at
Okay,
it.
okay. It's just the one of his shiny visor.
Armstrong's.
And for our
camera.
listeners, I will have all of these on our website.
Wait, but that's so small. How can you tell he doesn't have a camera in that?
Zoom in.
I know, but he's like a white little figure.
Yeah. But
I have to admit, these are like
It's-
very high def photos.
yeah,
I have
that's
not
what,
seen all these before.
that's what he was saying. He was like, these are way too good to be like, just we brought some cameras to the moon and took some pictures. But they got the best cameras that they had available.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Huh.
And the reason why he's not holding a camera visibly in that reflection is because they didn't have regular cameras because you can't use them in the suits.
Yeah.
So they had these little cameras mounted on the front of their suits.
That's what I was gonna say. Almost like a body cam.
Yes, exactly. Like a body cam.
That is very, very interesting. I wonder. I don't know. I want to say it's real.
Okay, but there are 3 agreed upon reasons for the hoax.
Hit me.
Okay? So they say the government thought it was important to win the space race against the Soviet Union.
Mhm.
Obviously, we've already discussed that. A win would have made the Soviet space program look like superior to us if they won.
Yeah.
So we needed to not have that happen because of the Cold War. The other reason is that accomplishing the moon landings would have ensured increased funding for NASA, and humiliation would have been avoided. And the last one is that the landings would have helped the government because they would be popular distractions from the Vietnam War.
I mean, those are all great reasons. That definitely.
Like the timing is
The timing is
conspicuous.
quite interesting. But I don't know. I just think like we were working for it and we were going for it. And I think other countries got pretty close. Am I wrong in that fact?
I know Russia sent a dog to space.
Was it a dog or a monkey?
No, it was a dog named like Layla. Have you ever seen Guardians of the Galaxy?
No.
Okay. Well, they have
Wait
a dog.
a second. Someone sent a monkey to space.
Someone probably did.
Wait, monkey in space?
The United States launched a chimp named Ham.
Oh, we did it.
We did it. Yeah. Let me look up the space dog. Yeah, her name was Layla, a Soviet space dog, one of the first animals in space and the first to orbit the Earth. She was a stray, but she did not survive the space voyage.
Oh,
Yes, that is
oh
why
that's heartbreaking.
I know. That's why she's so famous.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's so sad.
And they gave her like her own character in Guardians of the Galaxy.
How sweet.
I know.
How dare they send that poor dog up there?
I know.
But I don't know. I think what I truthfully believe is that when people look at these photos, they're like, oh my gosh, like these are incredible looking. And I just think that people don't believe it based off of that.
I just want to let you know that the chimp did survive the
Good.
space voyage.
Good, that makes
because
me-
I was wondering now.
That makes me feel a bit better.
Me too. Okay. as you were saying.
1 for 2 on animals.
Yeah.
But I mean, I just think that people are like, I think it freaked people out. I think I think it really did weird them out in 1969 that we got to another little area. Not a planet, but we got to our moon. And I think that kind of made people panic. Because have you ever seen all the movies that came out around that time that were like this dystopian, futuristic world and everything was bad or everything was just different? And I don't think people like different. I don't think people like change.
Yeah.
And so I think that people are a little bit panicked by this. But I want to say it's real. I'm on the real side.
I definitely think that space as a concept freaks people out. Like, I know you've heard talk about the War of the Worlds, that radio show.
Yes.
Yes. As a CDS student, we always talk about that. But I just think that scares people because it's just the unknown. You know?
And everyone's afraid of the unknown.
Yes.
And I think that a lot went into Apollo 11 that was unknown to the people. And so I think it really did freak people out because I think people started thinking to themselves like, oh my gosh, like if we landed on the moon, then where are we going to go next? What's next?
Yeah. Or maybe people thought if we can leave Earth, maybe people can come to Earth. And maybe that scared people, the thought of aliens.
Well, we will get into that.
We will get into that.
We will get into that on our later episodes. I mean, I completely agree with you, but I don't know. I'm going to stick with my initial thought. I think that this was way too risky of a stunt to fake because of the humiliation that they would have faced if people found out it was fake. I think it's incredibly bold of NASA to respond to everything that people are saying, and they have a reason. I don't know. I mean, imagine how bad do you feel for Buzz Aldrin and Armstrong?
Buzz Aldrin punched a moon landing conspiracy theorist one time. There's a video of
I'm
it.
with it. I would
Yeah.
too. Oh my gosh. I mean, I don't know how relaxing the long weekend was up to the moon, but I think if I landed on the moon and I came back and someone was like, nah, dude, you didn't go there, I'd be like, what are you talking about? I was there. There's pictures. There's evidence.
Yeah.
My suit is in a museum. It has dust on it.
Like we've studied moon rocks
Good
that
for
we
Buzz.
brought back. Yeah.
Good for Buzz. Okay. It's verdict time. I'm going to go with that the moon landing was real.
I believe the moon landing was real, although I would love to know what lighting they brought because it's really phenomenal.
I mean, you got to figure that they
like
would.
these photographs are like modern day quality.
No, they are incredible.
And if anyone would
incredible
have
cameras.
this equipment, it would be NASA.
It would be NASA.
And so
I'm with
it's
that.
not super surprising. Like I feel like I could not base a conspiracy theory off of that, but
I mean,
this
like
is
you
really
said,
good quality.
they're
pictures,
like,
yeah.
if you're going to the moon, they got to bring the best of the cameras that they had.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're decided.
The moon landing was real.
We're going to go with real. Okay. Well, I've been Joel.
And I'm Layla, and thank you guys so much for tuning in.